Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're looking at the political crisis in Pakistan since August the 14th, daily sit-ins in the capital. This Monday, we saw state television knocked off air for several hours before soldiers came in and ushered the demonstrators out. With us to talk about it, Pakistan's ambassador to France, Habib Iqbal. Welcome back. Welcome back as well to Umar Rehman, who chairs the Paris branch of Imran Khan's PTI party, and Asif Arif, attorney and author in French of The Ahmadiyya, a Forbidden Islam. Tell us what Ahmadiyya is.
Ahmadiyya is a Muslim community which believe that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is the Messiah, awaited by different religions under different titles. And Ahmadiyya Muslim community have the leadership which is going on under a Khalifa, who is Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad right now. And Ahmadis are well-persecuted community in Pakistan. So that's why I written Ahmadiyya, the Forbidden Islam, because it's a Islam that have been state-sponsored persecuted. So that's the main aim of the book, to know the fact that Ahmadis are persecuted. And
to uncover what they're about. Also joining us from Istanbul, Time magazine reporter Omar Warraq. Welcome back to the show. Before the break, we were talking about the discussions that took place this Monday between the head of the army, General Raheel Sharif, who met with Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. No formal statement on what they discussed over the weekend. There were the negotiations between the military and the Nawaz Sharif government. We heard before the break the explanation of the ambassador. Omar Warraq, how do you interpret the talks between the two?
Between the government and the army chief, you're saying?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I agree with much of what the ambassador has said. This crisis reached a point where neither the anti-government protesters and the government weren't able to sit down together and resolve something. And the army chief was seen as a neutral arbiter in this case. As the ambassador mentioned, that he is a figure who is respected by both sides because of the prestige that the army holds in Pakistan. And so the army itself has released statements, and it said that it is not taking sides in this conflict. It is against the violence that took place, so that is a bit of criticism of the government's actions, certainly. But at the same time, it says that there will have to be a political solution and that it supports democracy. So it can rule out the prospect of a military coup. That seems very, very unlikely. The message that there shouldn't be violence from the police, I think, was taken well, but it has also led to these protesters being able to storm the state television building earlier this morning without much resistance. The Islamabad police is in a weird situation where either it capitulates or it uses excessive force. It doesn't seem to be able to moderate itself. And so the hope really is that some sort of a compromise will come out of this. What sort of compromise that will be, we don't know. Imran Khan has so far insisted that nothing short of Mr. Sharif's resignation will suffice for him. And of course, Mr. Sharif's side says, well, that's just not possible. So there is a deadlock. And it remains to be seen whether Mr. Sharif can ride out these protests or simply make the business easy for Mr. Khan and Mr. Qadri and step down and be replaced by one of his allies. We'll have to see.
All right, lots of reactions coming in from viewers. One from Rushika saying, can someone from Pakistan convince me how an elected prime minister can be blackmailed to resign on the basis of a mere suspicion? Let me put that to you, Umar Rehman. At this point in time, again, it's been more than a year since those elections. If Nawaz Sharif resigns, doesn't that weaken all of Pakistan's institutions?
Not at all. All that is, I think, that is the part of the democracy. The thing is that the allegations that have been put on Mr. Nawaz Sharif, they're very serious in nature. And for that, there should be investigation that should be taken in place. The most important is that
a call to investigation is one thing, but a call to resign is a different one.
The thing is that Mr. Sharif, it's not the first time that he has proved, even in the last. There are many reasons for the Mr. Sharif to go home, because it is the voice of all the Pakistan. It is not the voice of the PTI anymore. Because Mr. Sharif, even the 2-3 days back on the floor of the parliament, tried to to insult army and also putting army in a very awkward position. And putting the baseless allegations on army, military, and then doing all the efforts to indulge army in this case, and then denying all the facts that were on the table. So the thing is that Mr. Sharif, if you see it from any point of view, at this moment we claim that he doesn't have the majority. So first of all, it needs to be investigated. That is the fundamental question. Secondly,
let's pick up on that point. Omar Warwick, your thoughts on that right now in Pakistan? Does the Prime Minister have a mandate to govern?
Well, it seems so. I mean, the Parliament met on this, and the various parties from the opposition, the Pakistan People's Party, parties from Balochistan, the MQM, all these other parties gave him a vote of confidence. They said that they believe that he is, he should continue as Prime Minister. The Constitution of Pakistan says that Parliament is sovereign. And so that matter should settle that. As far as the claim of people want him out, well, I mean, the people who are saying that he shouldn't be in, as it was already mentioned, Mr. Qadri's party has no representation in Parliament, and Mr. Khan's party has said that it will resign from Parliament. So that's something else to deal with, I mean, in terms of democracy, is that if you don't like someone, there are procedures. You can bring a vote of no confidence to the Parliament. That hasn't happened. The numbers aren't there. So the alternative is to wait for another election.
Okay, just I wanted to comment on the two things that you have mentioned in your conversation. The first point is about taking this debate into the Parliament House, on the floor of the Parliament House. The same question is today. Mr. Nawaz Sharif claimed and enjoyed what he claims, that he has got 2/3 majority in the National Assembly. If he has the 2/3 majority, you cannot get that much people out on the streets. Today in Pakistan, everywhere in all the cities, the people are asking him to go home. So if he has already the majority and the people in the parliament, they are representing them as having the majority holder, he would not be in a very awkward position. Because if you are from the people, then you should be representing the people. Now coming back to your second point, that why it is not on the floor of the parliament. When the election is rigged, and if you see the history of the last 7 years, how the elections have been held in Pakistan, where the role of the opposition was friendly opposition, you cannot find in any country in the world where there is an opposition that is a friendly opposition. You see the same thing that happened in the last elections when Mr. Asif Ali Zardari, who was presenting PPP, and Mr. Nawaz Sharif, who was in the opposition, he played the friendly opposition role in that. And in the Pakistan, everybody says, and it's not a mysterious thing that the people don't know, that it is the turn things. Like one has already taken for 5 years. Now it's the agreement of the opposition to let Mr. Nawaz Sharif do it for the next 5 years. Now coming back to the debt that Pakistan has taken in the 100 days of Nawaz Sharif government, that is the 50% more than the whole Zardari period. That means the last government in the 5 years, the debt that they've created for Pakistan, Mr. Nawaz Sharif have already done 50% plus debts it has taken.
Right,
for
so you're saying
there's
mismanagement of the economy.
Mismanagement and also the corruption that is the biggest factor today, that this government is not going down. It's the investments.
We're talking about legitimacy of the protesters and legitimacy of the government.
I have two observations about what you've just said. First of all is about the calculation of people who are in the street. The problem is you're arguing that we should just count by the number of people who are in the street, and tells that, okay, they are in majority. So if they are in majority, Nawaz Sharif should resign. But the problem is we need an independent, this is the main issue here. We need an independent body who will be mandated to talk about the elections. If there is some rigging in the election, so the result is simple. Nawaz Sharif needs to resign. It's okay, because there was some rigging. If there is not rigging, so it's continued democratical process. So you need to wait till Nawaz Sharif
I mean, you can put it in the different ways, in the different scenarios. It is very clear in a democratic government, in the elected government, no government shoot their own people. They claim to having a rubber bullets, but they were using the real metallic bullets, and they were killing. There were like a lot of casualties. Police was arresting people from the hospitals on the beds. They were hiding the dead bodies, the children, and the women. They have been on this. So our elected government...
In the weekend clashes, we're talking about
exactly
3 dead.
That I'm talking about, referring to the latest clashes that have been raised. And if you see everybody was watching on the media, the protestants, they were peaceful, and the first thing that you heard is about the firing of the shelling.
I don't know. Omar Warek, what was your interpretation of what happened over the weekend?
Well, I think both sides share blame in this. The police has obviously acted with excessive force. There are hundreds and hundreds of people injured. There are at least 3 people killed. There are, images in hospitals of people being badly wounded as a result of this. But also, as we've seen over the last few days, there were protesters with sticks. We saw protesters with cutters, with slingshots, with stones. They violated Parliament, tore the gate down there. We saw the attack on PTV today, and over there were people with T-shirts and other paraphernalia that belong to the 2 parties. So frankly, it's a very unfortunate and very sad set of days. And both sides bear blame for this.
I would not agree with you, Omar, because there's 2 things. First of all, is it online?
Yes.
Yeah. So there were 2 things. First of all, is that when you were talking about the protesters, they were in 17 days on the same streets. And they were seeing all the...
No, they were peaceful for 17 days.
Exactly.
But Parliament was attacked. The gates were cut.
Please allow me to answer the
there are policemen who are injured. Amongst the injured, there are policemen who are injured.
I've been part of that protest as well. I've spent there more than a week there, and I was there from the 14th of August. So I've seen it with my own eyes that what was happening there. So now regarding how this crowd has been, that was peacefully marching towards this, the police have fired the shells first on the innocent people. When you talk about the sticks and the stones, they are not the weapons. Secondly, these sticks are also used for all the flags there. So you cannot put it all the flags that are used, the sticks there, they have used that one. And then the stones there.
So with the greatest respect, there are demonstrations in Paris all the time.
This happened here as well in Paris. So let me point out that when the police started charging and started attacking the crowd like that, then the incidents happen. The people who have gone into the parliament side, they have not tried to enter the building. They stayed in the lawns for the protections. Secondly, when you talk about the law and order situation that has been created, that is very unfortunate, that is created by the government by firing on them, then you see some reactivity from the people. It happens in all the Western countries as well. It happens in Paris as well. It happens in France as well. When there is an abuse of the power, and when there's people who are protesting in peace, when you start firing at them, there would be the reaction. Then the situation is out of your control. So you cannot put this blame that it is coming from the both sides. It was in the hand of the government to control the situation. If they would marched peacefully till the Prime Minister house, and today they are on the outside of the Prime Minister house.
Okay.
Nobody attempted to go into it.
All right,
so if they would have given this, there would be no problem.
Different interpretations of what's happened in the last week. Those protests again happening since August 14th. Question, we talked about it in part 1 of our discussion, why Mr. Javed Hashmi, the president of Imran Khan's party, has left Imran Khan in the middle of such a movement, saying all is wrong. We talked about it in part 1 of our discussion. The end of the day, when the dust settles, how weakened will Nawaz Sharif be? Will the government still be able, for instance, to continue with the prosecution of the man who ousted him from power in a 1999 coup, former President Pervez Musharraf?
I think it's not related to General Musharraf's trial.
Even if it is, let's say it's unrelated, but will he still be able to?
The ultimate objective is to strengthen the parliament. The parliament is sovereign. And when the parliament decides, they are the one who have to decide. And the argument which Umar was saying earlier, that without the Prime Minister's resignation, the investigations cannot be free and fair. I think the judiciary in Pakistan is very free. Last government, the sitting Prime Minister, there was a case against him, and the court decided to remove him from the post. If a sitting Prime Minister could not safeguard his own interests and his own position at that time, what is stopping the courts now to take a decision which is in accordance with the law and justice? The Judicial Commission has to come up with the recommendations and with a decision, whether there was a rigging or not. That is the primary question. Without determining the fact that there was rigging, we can accuse someone, but we cannot penalize someone without the determination of the facts and it's investigated properly.
Would you nonetheless agree here that the Prime Minister's position, no matter what happens, will come out of this weekend?
I want just to notice to have an observation on the remark of Iqbal Saib. Just on the independence of the judiciary in Pakistan. The ambassador just said that the judiciary power in Pakistan is well independent. But if we look at, and I am just making a little turnover here, but it's my field of expertise, it's minority rights. So if you look at minority rights, you find numbers of examples where there is some petition. For example, in Lahore High Court, they filled the petition and the judge will rule the decision, and just 2 minutes after, he will withdraw his decision. So this is just because there is some pressure outside. So I don't think there is today in Pakistan, we can say there is a full independent judiciary. It could be some judges are independent, of course. Pakistan is not corrupted at all. Everyone is not corrupted in Pakistan. But the main problem is the corruption. If we not take off this cancer from Pakistan, I don't think you can have an issue. If today it's the Azadi March, tomorrow it will be another thing.
Omar Warwick, how strong are Pakistan's institutions and how strong will the Prime Minister be at the end of it?
Well, Pakistan's institutions, the bulk of them aren't strong enough, as we're seeing. The judiciary isn't strong enough. The election mechanism, for example, is not strong enough to withstand the questions that have been raised about it. The Prime Minister's office isn't strong enough to withstand even just tens of thousands of protesters. So, as the ambassador said earlier, this is Pakistan's passing through a transition, and part of the transition is to strengthen these institutions. Either way, Nawaz Sharif will be weaker as a result of this. I mean, he's taken severe blows as a result of these protests. Imran Khan has succeeded in focusing media attention on him. He's been able to sustain protests for a number of days that have challenged his authority. There's sections of the media that are asking some very serious questions. There's a lot of hostility. The events earlier in Lahore in June, where there was real heavy-handedness of the police that was exceeded Islamabad, where 14 protesters were killed, has already dented his authority a great deal. It may well be the case that if an election were to take place soon, he may return to office, but he will be a diminished man as a result of it, and there's still a long way to go. It's only been 15 months into his government.
A diminished man? Again, it brings us back to the initial question, Omar Warwick. When it comes to things like, say, the trial of Pervez Musharraf, when it comes to things like negotiations with India, remember that the current Prime Minister went to the inauguration of India's new Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. Is it everything back in the box and back to the status quo?
Well, maybe. I mean, Mr. Sharif's plan to charge General Musharraf was controversial within Pakistan. There were people who were no friends of Pervez Musharraf who said that this would constitute a vendetta, that it wasn't something that was needed, that there were other priorities that Pakistan had, like its fight in North Waziristan, like its economic concerns that the other panelists have mentioned, and therefore to distract attention in this way was perhaps unnecessary. And in fact, an act of magnanimity on Nawaz Sharif's part may have made him more popular. I mean, we don't know. It seems as if Mr. Sharif will not have the clout to be able to proceed with these things in the same way. When it comes to India, well, in that case, he will have to carry other parties within Parliament and beyond Parliament with him. That may end up being a good thing. It may be that Mr. Sharif's authoritarian tendencies that he has sometimes will be curbed, and as a result, there'll be more checks and balances, and therefore the big decisions he makes, he won't be able to do unilaterally, but will have to carry the country with him. We'll have to see.
Ambassador, when the Prime Minister of Pakistan went to the inauguration of his Indian counterpart, it was hailed as a bold move. We've seen since that there's been some skirmishes across the border, quite a few of them. There were supposed to be talks recently. Those were cancelled. Is it going to be a long wait before substantive talks happen?
I think Pakistan and India relationship has been up and down regularly. And whenever we have tried to resume the talks over there, something somehow or the other happens. At times attributed to Pakistan wrongly, at times attributed to India wrongly. But at the same time, when there is a will, a political will on both sides of the border that we need to resolve our issues, I think if the will is there, it would be easier for both the countries to ensure that there's peace in the region. Once we have the peace in the subcontinent, that is going to bring prosperity to people of our region. And it's not about war. It's not about I can kill you and you can kill me. It is now...
But when we know that a good part of the military is very suspicious of India, can a weakened Nawaz Sharif take on those discussions?
A very big part of BJP is very suspicious of relationship with Pakistan. A very big part of the extreme rightist Hindus are very suspicious of having relationship with Pakistan. We will have, because there are mindsets all over the subcontinent, but these mindsets are changing. These mindsets need to be changed. The ultimate objective is better life for the people in the region. And that is only possible when Pakistan and India try to resolve their issues, including the core dispute of Jammu and Kashmir. Without that, we will not be able to have good relation. Now, the talks which were postponed or cancelled between the foreign secretaries of Pakistan and India, it stemmed from the very fact that our ambassador over there, he had met one of the Kashmiri leaders. And that was the result, the way Indian went public and through the media and wanted to cancel the talks between the two foreign secretaries. We need to talk. We need to remain engaged because there are confidence-building measures and there is a set pattern of the composite dialogue. If we follow that religiously, due diligence is done, yes, there is a possibility that in the next decade or so, the acrimony between the two countries is going to come down.
Omar Warwick, who's stronger, those who want to talk or those who don't want to talk?
Well, at the moment, those who don't want to talk. I mean, as the ambassador mentioned, it was the Indians' decision to call off the recent talks because of something. I mean, his ambassadorial colleague in New Delhi has been meeting these Kashmiri leaders for 20 years. And as a New York Times editorial said, you know, Prime Minister Modi floundered on this occasion. And so it seems as if the people who don't want to talk, and there are many of them in Pakistan, and there are many of them in India, they seem to be winning. I don't see any point in two neighbors with so many issues to discuss, from water to Afghanistan, to their own border disputes, to trade, to visas and so on and so forth. It's a very, very long list. I don't see any point in them not talking. And so something as fundamental as being able to talk is difficult at this moment, and that's very unfortunate.
All right, final question for you. I'll put it to you, Omar. The panel agrees that whatever happens, Nawaz Sharif, Prime Minister of Pakistan, will be weakened, but he's somebody in the past who's come back. What does he need to do?
Right now, I mean, if he survives this crisis, then he would have to do a number of things. So the concerns over rigging will have to be addressed in as transparent a manner as possible. And if he is cleared of that, then he'll be able to continue. If there are people within his party or in the previous government or anywhere else, they will have to be seen to be punished and held accountable. Beyond that, there are other pressing issues. So, for example, if he can do something about Pakistan's crippling electricity crisis, then he may be able to win a second term back. The IMF has recently said that the government's performing better in terms of the economy. The growth rate is up, inflation is down. He will have to maintain that kind of progress. But I think this experience will also mean that he can't just take a majoritarian view, which is to cater to his own base and his voting faithful. But he also has to look to people like the people who vote for PTI or the people who support Mr. Qadri's party and address their concerns as well. He needs to be a prime minister for all of Pakistan.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. Omar Warwick, I want to thank you for joining us from Istanbul. I want to thank our panel here in the studio, Ambassador Halib Iqbal. Also want to thank Umar Rehman and Azif Arif. Thank you for joining us here in the France 24 debate.
A tour of Europe.
Join us on France 24 this summer from London to Warsaw. We'll bring you our best stories and interviews from our tour of Europe. As more and more Europeans are turning their backs on the EU, they'll tell us what they expect from their new representatives in the European Parliament.
A tour of Europe on France 24 and France24.com.